Welcome to the Thyroid Fixer podcast, where we dive deep into the world of thyroid and hormones, especially for you ladies navigating perimenopause and menopause, and really for anyone struggling with hypothyroidism. I'm your host, Dr. Amy, thyroid and hormone specialist and CEO of a global telemedicine practice where we prescribe the right thyroid treatment and bioidentical hormones to all 50 states and most of Canada, helping you become that badass human that you're meant to be. So if you're battling weight gain and hair loss, you can't lose weight no matter what you do, your energy levels are plummeting and your libido left town, then you're in the right place and you have found your tribe. Remember, I want you to embrace every inch of that badass woman that you truly are. So if you're ready to dive in and fix things, let's get started. I hear your questions about what are the benefits of red light therapy with the thyroid? Well, when you go down that rabbit hole of studies, there are multiple benefits how shining red light on your neck can absolutely help to produce more thyroid hormone and heal the thyroid, but it does so much more. But here's the thing, that red light, you don't want to just go out and buy any red light panel. There are different wavelengths that you need to look for. You want it combined with UVB because UVB light has a whole host of potential benefits of its own. So number one, UVB triggers testosterone production and libido by triggering the P53 protein. Amazing. Sunlight. We know how important sunlight is to resetting our circadian rhythm, to even helping us lose weight and with our sleep and our blood sugar balance. UVB light does that. So when you get that dose of UVB in the morning, that's going to help stimulate that testosterone, reset your circadian rhythm, up-level your vitamin D, amazing things. Here's all the other things that it can do. It helps with your microbiome health and diversity. It helps reduce cancer risk, including thyroid cancer, reduces your COVID risk. It prevents weight gain. Like we said, your testosterone, your sleep, it helps with MS. There's a study on that. I would love to put all these studies in, but I don't want to bombard you. Reduction in psoriasis and vitiligo, reduce depression, better mood, throw out the antidepressants. Let's just get some sun, UVB and red light. Oh my God. Cognitive function and memory. And of course, your skin, stimulating that collagen production to reduce wrinkles and just improve the overall quality of your skin, reduction of acne, healing of scars. Just really doesn't get any better than this. And this light that I've been using, which is by Metabolism, is just so compact. I set it right on my desk so I can literally use it every day. I have it on right now as I'm recording this. I shine it on my face and on my neck every single day. I hit my décolleté as well because I want to prevent sun damage. I want to reduce all those brown spots of aging and promote collagen because I don't want a wrinkly chest either. Who wants that? So if you want to check out this bad boy, this is amazing. If you're going to invest in a red light, you want Mitolux. You want to go to mitolux.com/Dr. Amy. So mitolux.com/DRAMIE. That will automatically generate you a 10% off discount off of a Mitolux device. You will love it. Like I said, one that you're going to invest in. This is it. I promise you, this is it. You know, I am so passionate about giving you information that you can implement to actually change your life, change your body, fix your thyroid, fix your hormones. So that is why I am doing, for the first time ever, a Fix Your Thyroid Masterclass. Time to break free from the fatigue and the fat that we're dealing with and that we're so frustrated with. So I want you to attend live. I want you to be there live. We are going to go over so many things. The TSH trap. What doctors should test and they don't test, even integrative and functional practitioners, how they're treating or how they're scamming you. These thyroid detoxes out there, what supplements you really should be using. We're going to give you real answers and we're going to end with a live Q&A with me. So that's why you have to be there live. We are doing this in September. So click the link below. It'll have all of the information, the dates, the times, the sign-up info. Go to fixyourthyroid.com and you'll find it there. You'll find the details. I want you there. I want you signed up. I want to see you in the meeting. And I want you asking your questions and taking notes. Let's do this together to get you to the next level. Fixyourthyroid.com. So many of you have seen Dani Hamilton on here before. She's also a friend of mine. But the reason why I'm bringing her back on the show is because here I am at Hack Your Health and I'm watching her talk and I'm literally blown away. The first text I send her is, you have to come on the show and I want you to go through everything that you just did in your talk. And I want you to tell my people that, because this is a need to know piece of information, a boatload of information. It can't just be at Hacker Health. We need to get it out there to the world. It can really, really help. So, Dani, you dove into, and I'm going to let you actually talk about your own talk, but I'm giving the high level overview here. You dove into light and circadian rhythm and how it affects our entire body and how it affects our metabolism and how it affects our glucose levels and our control over blood sugar. And I mean, you put it together in a way that I was like, oh my God, like this is the missing piece of people's health and metabolic health. This is it. So I'm going to let you take it from there after that intro and just start somewhere and we'll just keep going.
All right. Yeah. I mean, and also hormone health and the whole metabolic function, not just blood sugar, but also it's really helpful for thyroid, for mood, for sleep, for energy levels. I mean, anything that you have issues with, it's like I discovered this world of circadian and quantum biology. Those words were very foreign to me. They're a little overwhelming. But basically, in a nutshell, it's kind of talking about the smallest particles. So it's talking about photons of light. We're referring to things like electrons, which are negatively charged particles, and protons, which are positively charged particles. And so I'm like, okay, I'm remembering some of this stuff from 8th grade. But that that didn't, like, not to quote Shania Twain, but I'm like, okay, that doesn't impress me much, like what about this stuff? Like, how is stepping on the ground gonna be more beneficial for my health? I was just like, surely food is more important. I have a background as a nutritionist. Like, surely food is more important than all of this. Like, why would I waste my money on grounding shoes when I could buy a supplement, right? Like, I didn't buy in for a while. And I was starting to learn about things about light and circadian rhythm from other people online. And it wasn't until I realized I was working with some people on their blood sugar and a lot of things got better. We got them off their metformin. We reversed the insulin resistance. But what was happening was I was seeing a lot of people with really high morning fasting blood sugar. And that was the only marker that was kind of off. And it's like, we did every liver supplement and all this liver support, and we did fasting protocols, and nothing was working. And then I started to learn about light, and all of a sudden some pieces started to, come into clear view for me. And I told my client, go outside at sunrise and get this sunrise light in your eyes, and let's see what happens, and on your skin, and let's see what happens. Sure enough, within 2 weeks, her blood sugar went from fasted at around like a 104, 105 to an 83. Like literal perfection in a couple of weeks. And so I was like, okay, there's something here. So I started learning about light and our circadian rhythms, which I'll explain. But again, I thought it was just like, well, surely it's the food, it's the toxins, it's the, lack of movement that's causing all these issues. But then again, I'm seeing all these clients who are doing everything right, but they're still struggling. So I'm like, I don't understand why some people can get well and then some people can't. So there was this piece of the puzzle missing for me. And that's when I realized that, maybe it is this light stuff. And then that just kind of pointed me to nature. That's why I'm sitting outside recording this podcast. So I apologize in advance if there's like a bird or a stray, car noise, but being outside, I just realized how important it is. And so we sort of in our modern society gotten away from these cycles of nature, like feasting and famine, right? It's just feasts all the time. And then some people, women usually, like working so hard that they're telling their body it's winter all the time. There's this scarcity going on because it's sort of like over fasting, overworking out. So a lot of us are lacking a balance there. We're in temperature controlled environments. We're not exposed to like discomfort of being a little too hot or being a little too cold. It's always, like a perfect 72 or Amy, I know you like it cold. So maybe like 68, right? And then we certainly have become really out of sync with nature's light and dark cycles. And that is a huge issue. And so I like to use the example, let's say we bought a new plant and we brought it home from the store and it was beautiful and we were talking nicely to it and we gave it nice water and maybe we spoke nicely to the water and we structured it and we gave it organic fertilizer and all these things, and then we locked it in a dark closet. It would still die, right? And so, yes, we are not plants, but we're not that different from plants. We do need light in order to thrive. As humans, we lived our entire human history outside. We always lived outside up until the last couple of centuries where we had homes, right? That have windows that are and a structure that's blocking out nature. So as humans we evolved being outside, and as such we had exposure to these really bright days and really dark nights. And so what happened as humans, we actually developed receptors for light on our eyes and in our skin and in our mitochondria. And so what happens is that our eyes and skin receptors, they're called melanopsin receptors, they're specifically tuned into this frequency of light that is actually a blue light, that's sky blue. And so the presence of that light is basically like a conductor in an orchestra. The blue light that's in our environment is telling our body, hey, this is what time it is. And I always, when I first learned about this, I was like, well, why does the body need to know what time it is? Like, why is that such a big deal? And I like to use the example of, like, have you ever taken a nap? Like, you took a really long nap and you're kind of like, you wake up and you're like a little disoriented. You don't know where you are. You don't know what day it is. You don't know who you are for like a split second. And in that second, a little bit of panic kind of sets in. It's a little bit like, who am I? What am I doing? And it's stressful, right? In that little split second, it's stressful. And the very first thing that we with our conscious minds try to do is figure out what time it is. And why do we do that? Because if we don't know what time it is, then we don't know what to do. Why am I not putting on pajamas and getting ready for bed right now?
Right.
Why am I not pulling out the Christmas tree and putting up decorations? I'm not doing those things because it's not time for that, right? Like, I am on this call with you because it is time for that. And I know time is an illusion and, we're not getting esoteric about it, but our bodies need to know what time it is because they have a lot of SHIT to get done.
Yeah.
So we have genes to turn on, hormones to release, genes to turn off. We have to do mitophagy and autophagy, and we have to repair, and we have to digest, and we have to metabolize. We have hundreds and thousands of tasks to do in every single cell, every single second of the day. Think about an airport. If an airport didn't have a control tower, it would be anarchy. It's anarchy enough, enough as it is, right? This control tower in our brain, we actually have this thing in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. And that SCN is part of the hypothalamus, which receives these light signals, which then tells the body what to do. So we have this control tower in our mind that's receiving the light signals that's informing our biology. One of the things that I heard that just like blew my mind was that, you can have all the precursors you want for thyroid hormones, for example, but if you never get that green light from the control tower that says, yep, land that plane, or like, release that hormone, you may not release the hormone. And so then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it's not about the biochemistry. That's only a part of the story. We have to zoom out and look at what's controlling the biochemistry is light. It doesn't feel tangible to me. It doesn't feel real yet. It doesn't feel, but like, it's just really like, are you sure? So when we look at day and night, let's look at daytime and nighttime as human beings. In the daytime, we're better at doing things like digesting food, metabolizing food, solving problems, being on podcasts. If you woke me up at 2 a.m., even if you gave me a bunch of coffee and gave me time to wake up, I would not be as sharp as I am now, right? There's something about the daytime that makes me more able to do these things. And then we see the opposite. At night, we're better at resting, repairing, detoxifying. So our bodies are set up to do certain things better at different times. And that is what a circadian rhythm actually is. It's this body clock, yes, that's regulating our sleep-wake cycle, but also it's regulating every single cell in our body every organ has a circadian clock. Like a lot of people are familiar with that, like in like Chinese medicine, like, oh, the liver, the hour is like 3 a.m. or something like that. It's not exactly that, but I think we can, if you have that experience, we can understand that, oh yes, our body, let's say, for example, has its highest alertness around, let's say, 10 a.m. ish. And then we have our best coordination in the early afternoon, and we have our highest body temperature in the evening time, and we have our like there's just different things about our body that sort of function on this 24-hour clock. 24 hours, why? Because we live on planet Earth that has a 24-hour day. If we lived on Neptune, it would be like a 17-hour circadian rhythm. Yep. So our bodies are they are so synced to the earth and to the changes in the earth. Again, what's controlling this circadian rhythm is the light and dark cycle, is the presence of that blue light, and then the absence of blue light. And then also meal timing is another really important one. So they're called like time givers or Zeitgebers. And so when we eat our meals, that's really important too, because food also contains light information. That was an interesting thing as well. So we're getting light information from our food as well. What we're going to learn to do is kind of sync our bodies a little bit better with, I don't want to say like how it's supposed to be, but syncing our bodies with nature. And that makes everything work better. We're working with nature, we're working with our bodies when they're the best at doing things as opposed to when they're not. Same thing if you like had to go into work at 5 a.m. and give a presentation, like, don't you wish it could be noon? Right. Yeah, you could do it then. It's just going to be harder on you. It's not going to be as good. So it's the same thing with our body. It's just better set up to do certain things at certain times. And it just makes everything work better. So if you're looking to have more energy, better hormone balance, better metabolic health, better sleep, and things just feeling a little bit more effortless. I feel like we're all efforting so hard. We're like working out, we're waking up early, we're fasting, we're cutting carbs. And this method is not saying don't do those things, but it's almost giving a context of like, what time should I put in a workout to get the best results or to work with my biology, as opposed to, actually, I'm maybe not getting as many benefits of this workout if I'm doing it in this way at that time or whatever. So it's providing this beautiful foundation and framework on which to put certain things and then certain concepts to prioritize. So is all that making sense so far?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, questions I have based on what you just said. Is this universal? Because, you have some people that are like, well, I like working out in the morning. Oh, no, like I like working out in the afternoon or the evening. So number one, is it universal? And the same thing goes for the sleep thing. Like, oh, I'm a night owl. We know there's not night owls out that you're not supposed to be. But the people that have these different experiences based on their 24-hour clock, is what you're saying universal? And then what happens when we override it?
Is it universal? I think for something like if we're just talking about a workout, I would say no. I think that there's variety. I think that there's better times and worse times. And so I'll kind of point to that as I go through the different times of day. And then you mentioned, the thing about being a night owl. Yeah. My best friend is Molly Eastman. She's a mutual friend, sleep expert, and she's also a circadian rhythm centric sleep expert. And what she sees is that people who are lifelong night owls, all you have to do is just go camping for a couple of days, your circadian rhythm will reset. And so she sees that it's really, there may be a little bit of variation, but most often she calls it like an entrainment. We have entrained our body to get tired at this time, to get hungry at this time, to want to sleep at this time, to want to be up. So a lot of what we're doing, a lot of people are going to give me pushback about mealtime and things, and they're going to be like, well, I'm just not hungry then. And it's like, just remember that we are training our body to do things as they're happening right now. I get hungry at the time I do because I've trained my body to do that. So we're trainable. We can change these things in ourselves. So a lot of things are moldable, and there's not for some things, like certain practices, it's not like everyone has to do this exact thing at this exact time. There's some things that are a little bit more specific than others, but I'll give more examples as we go through. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk about light at different times of the day versus night. We're going to talk about the types of light, their benefits, And and then we're going to talk about the lights in the evening mostly that we should be avoiding and how to mitigate some of the harmful artificial light, because not all light was created equal. And I just wanted to call your attention to this app called or Circadian Life, circadian.life. You can find it at that website. I'm not affiliated with them, but that's how you can know in your location when all of these time periods are going to be around. So first we start with daybreak, and this is when the sun crosses over the horizon. And even though we can't see it, it's loaded with a specific type of light called infrared, which you may recognize because there's a lot of red light therapy panels now on the market. So infrared light is a deeply healing and soothing light. It makes up about 49% of the sun's rays. So if something is about half of the sun's rays, which gives life to all life on Earth, probably pretty important, right?
Right.
So infrared, hugely important. It is luckily present in all sunlight, all year round, all locations on the globe. It's anti-inflammatory, it supports wound healing, it reverses aging, it builds collagen, it heals wounds, it's helpful for detoxifying, it helps the immune system. So many amazing things. It also supports mitochondria and makes them more efficient at using glucose. So in other words, it lowers your glucose levels. It also builds this stuff called exclusion zone water, which is like charged water. So water in our body that our mitochondria make, it separates into these charges, kind of creating like a body battery. But this exclusion zone is also really important for all of our cells to keep things out. It excludes things like heavy metals and toxins, and it gives our cells this strong negative charge. I always say we want a positive mind, but we want a negatively charged body. Infrared light can help build that exclusion zone. It hydrates our cells from an intracellular way. And a lot of people who struggle with histamine issues, histamine is a cell danger response, oftentimes from cellular dehydration. So when you support your mitochondria to make more of this water, it's really, really powerful. So we can do that with infrared light, which we just mentioned is in the light right before sunrise, also at sunrise. And infrared light also builds subcellular melatonin. Melatonin we know as being important for sleep, but it also runs basically every single repair process in your body. If you think like I have inflammation, I have a leaky gut, I have, what joint pain, we need to heal those tissues. We need to restore them. Melatonin, right? And so we can build melatonin with infrared light. And I was curious, well, how much melatonin out of our total melatonin is made from this light? Do you know?
I have no idea.
95% is made from infrared light during the daytime. 95% of our melatonin is made during the day from infrared light.
Okay, but we're not getting tired from that. It's just healing our body. And then, yeah.
The reason why we don't have melatonin coming up being high, even though our cells are making it, it's not being released. It's the mitochondria are making the melatonin from that light, but it's not being released yet. So that's a good thought. Again, if, as a blood sugar and metabolic health specialist, building subcellular melatonin is going to help our sleep, which is then going to help our metabolic function, right? Yeah. And then there's also a lot of red light right before sunrise and at sunrise. And these are similar benefits to infrared, but more superficial. I almost said artificial, more superficial. So the infrared penetrates a little deeper. Red light is more on the surface for skin health, thyroid health, injury recovery, nerve pain, hair growth, reducing signs of aging. So if you want basically a free red light therapy panel, go outside before sunrise and then also stand in that light as soon as the sun crosses that horizon in the sunrise light. All of that light is very rich in red and infrared. So we're going to get the blood sugar lowering effect from it. And that's why my clients lowered her fasting morning glucose. Then when the sun crosses the horizon, for the first time in that day, blue light becomes available in a sufficient amount in order to set off a cascade of hormonal reactions, basically telling the body to start turning on cortisol production. And cortisol opposes melatonin. As cortisol is coming up, because blue is increasing in the environment, It's turning off melatonin release, but it's still being created inside the mitochondria.
Got it.
That
Okay.
answer that?
And melatonin is fantastic for cancer. I know we were using it orally in high doses during COVID. So
because it's a powerful antioxidant.
yeah,
So you want,
anti-inflammatory. That's fantastic. Okay.
yeah. So you want your body to be making all this melatonin on its own. So maxing out on morning sunlight is a beautiful way to do that. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, cortisol, like my cortisol's high in the morning. Like a lot of people like big stress response. So when it comes to sunrise, when we get outside at sunrise, we do have the gentle, gradual rise of blue, but we also have tons of red and infrared. So blue light, that's going to raise our cortisol. It's also going to raise blood sugar and insulin, which is wild. But when paired with the red and infrared that utilize that blood sugar, it's not going to have that raising effect. It's going to balance it out. In sunlight, blue light is always, always paired with red and infrared, which is why it's balancing. And so it's still telling our body what time it is. It's promoting alertness and wakefulness and all the things we need to take on our day and do podcasts and all this stuff. But it's also balanced out with that red and infrared. This light, this blue light in the morning, is also telling our body to produce pregnenolone, which is a precursor to a lot of our sex hormones. So that's really important. And basically, this blue light is what's in charge of the circadian rhythm. It's saying like, this is what time it is. So here's what to do, get going. It's keeping our body on schedule. And just once again, in nature, blue light never appears without red or infrared, but that's not how in our artificial lights, there's not enough red and no infrared in our lights. So in the morning, if we just open our phone first thing or flip on a light or open the fridge, what are we getting? We're getting a blast of blue light without the infrared to balance it out. And so what happens is when we do this, you may see, if you have a CGM on, you may see a rise in your fasting blood sugar levels because the cortisol is creating new blood sugar and the blue light is turning on that blood sugar response. And we don't want a giant spike of cortisol in the morning. We want that gradual elevation, just as, the sun's rising from the horizon. It doesn't go from like the horizon to like straight up ahead in 2 seconds. No, it does that nice and gradually. And so it brings that nice cortisol curve. I always like to think about the sun's sort of location on the horizon, and that's sort of what my cortisol should be doing at that time. We want to get outside and get sunrise light as the first light in our eyes before we see any other light. That's ideal. Even if it's cloudy, rainy, foggy, the light is still coming through those clouds. If you can't get outside, you just want to crack a window. Looking through a screen is okay. Some people ask me that. And you want to sky gaze east. You don't have to stare at the sun, but just look at the sky facing east. That's my east. This is my seat for sunrise, actually. And if you wake up before sunrise, you want to pop on some orange lens blue blocking glasses because we don't want to artificially turn on our circadian rhythm before the sun starts rising. And seeing the sunrise is, even though it doesn't sound like it, it is one of the most powerful things you can do for your health. So if you do anything from this, start getting out at sunrise and ideally grounding, because that's another way we can gather electrons. Those electrons go down the electron transport chain. They create ATP, which is that energy source for our body. They create that EZ water. So it's a free source of energy. Again, it's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It's, free energy, like unbelievable. So very healing and soothing. So a lot of people I see are they're so stressed. Their blood sugar is crashing all the time. They're, hypothyroid and their cortisol is a mess. It's like, we are nature. So that's why we're so regulated in nature. Our feet are on the earth. They're absorbing the frequencies of the earth, the Schumann resonance. We're hearing the sounds of the bugs and the birds and the leaves. That is, there are studies showing how regulating that is for a nervous system. Part of the benefits that you get from this are just that calming response. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? I go outside and feel calm,
Right.
It's really nice.
I'm checking in with you. How's your energy these days? How's your skin? How's your muscle strength? These are things that are very, very important to me. And I know just from research that after the age of 30, our mitochondria starts breaking down. And these are the powerhouses of the cell that provide us with muscle strength and better skin and abundant energy through the day. So I've added in something that I wanted to share with you, Timeline Nutrition's MitoPure. So when we look into research into healthy aging, it really focuses on that pivotal role that our mitochondria plays in our body. And without our mitochondria working at top notch, then health is just declining. And that's not what we want. Daily wear and tear on a mitochondria is inescapable, but we can do something about it now. Timeline Nutrition's MitoPure is the first supplement that has been clinically shown to replace and rebuild damaged mitochondria. And this results in a boost in cellular energy. And actually, research has shown that individuals experience an increase in muscle strength and endurance without even altering their diet and exercise routine. So, I mean, I can personally attest to feeling the difference. I am now going to ask you to feel the difference. So I invite you to go to timelinenutrition.com. They're giving my community 10% off of MitoPure if you use the code Dr. Amy. So you are going to go to timelinenutrition.com/Dr. Amy and use the code Dr. Amy, DRAMIE. So timelinenutrition.com/DRAMIE and use the code Dr. Amy at checkout. Because ever since I heard your talk, now in the morning, I pick up my phone. I'm like, no, don't pick up the phone. That cannot be the first light that you see. But as we're getting into winter, it's going to get light later. So I'm glad that you mentioned that about the orange glasses. Throw those on until the sun comes up. Now, what about, you had said about grounding shoes. What about the practicality of the winter here where I can't go out and stand on the ground?
Yeah, grounding shoes.
Yeah,
grounding
so those
shoes
really do work.
Yes, I have a grounding meter and I tested it and they work. I got conductive socks that have like a copper infusion or whatever from Amazon, and I wear those. If your feet are even a little moist, it will conduct. And the cool thing about grounding is you get instantaneous benefits. It's like it's just like you plug in a phone, boom. It's like the signal has gone through. It gets that charge. Same thing with our body. Think about it. It's an electric current. We are literally sucking in electrons. The movement of electrons is called electricity. You charge your phone every night. You charge your computer every day. Do we charge our bodies? No. Prioritizing grounding. One of my clients yesterday on a coaching call, she's like, okay, what's left? My hypoglycemia is better, but I'm inflamed. I have mast cell stuff going on. I don't have that much energy. And I'm like, grounding. I'm like, you wanted something fancy? I'm like, get outside and touch a leaf. Like you can ground with any part of your body. You can ground with anything that's growing in the earth. So you can take your fingers and pinch a blade of grass and you are grounded. You can step on cement. You can step on bricks or stone or a metal pole if you live in a city.
Okay, so that's easier then. Thank you.
Grounding is so much more accessible when we think it's not just grass. Any body of water, running water over your hands, you ground, because groundwater has to be like the water from our cities and stuff has to be grounded. Well water is obviously grounded. You're in a pool, like you're grounded. So there's really cool ways. Drinking from a water fountain, please filter your water, but you're still grounded. So there's a lot of cool ways to be grounded. And like I said, a metal pole that's grounded into the earth is grounded. So if you are living in a city, you walk around, you're waiting at a stoplight, touch a metal pole, right?
Yeah.
Because you're getting instantaneous benefits. And that's so cool.
Very cool. That is so cool. Yes. Okay.
I love it. Yeah. I have 3 pairs of grounding shoes now because I'm like, yep, they're worth it. Yeah. I wear them all the time. Like I don't want to have to choose between going for a walk and getting grounding in. So now it's like kill 2 birds,
Yeah.
But
I love it.
So meal timing would be the next thing that I want to talk about because we're talking about the morning. And I see a lot of women, especially, please let me get through this. Don't shut off the podcast and let me let's take a collective deep breath.
Yeah, I changed my ways too. So you go and then I'll chime in.
Okay. Yep. So skipping breakfast, especially for women, may work at first, but almost always leads to a plateau. And this is what I've been seeing. My clients who I saw in 2018, 2020, they were just starting the skipping breakfast thing and it was helping them. And now, years later, 4 to 6 years later, the ramifications of what I am seeing is that people who are chronic, especially women, chronic breakfast skippers have increased weight and increased blood sugar. They have high cortisol levels and they cannot get their blood sugar down. Why? Because when you're skipping breakfast, you're asking your body to run on cortisol all morning. Modern women already have sky high levels of stress. And so we're now not running on nourishment. We're not running on nutrients. We're running on stress hormones. And so at first it does work because an acute stressor is going to, suppress your appetite. It's going to give you that nice boost of energy. That's not what chronic stress does, though. Chronic stress is going to make your blood sugar go up. You're going to feel tired. It's going to backfire. When we skip breakfast, studies also show we have higher blood sugar responses to the next meals. We're also more insulin sensitive early in the day. That means we have a better blood sugar response to our meals. So we become more insulin resistant as the day goes on. So why would I want to backload my meals, right? That's going to put them right before sleep sometimes. Or what I see with people is that they skip breakfast. They're starving by lunch. They eat lunch. They overeat lunch. Then they have a big crash in the afternoon. Then they need a second coffee. Then they go home and they eat dinner. And then they're like sitting in front of the TV, finally able to relax. And they're like, God, I'm still hungry, or I need to have a snack. Like I can't resist the cravings. They have the snack right before bed, which is ideal, like arguably the worst time to have it. And then they double down on the fast. But they're like, well, I have to fast tomorrow because I just ate like crap. And then the cycle repeats. And so I'm saying this in like a playful way because it's like we're trying so hard and it's not working. And yes, there's totally going to be a couple of people out there for whom this does not apply. That, I can, my appetite is fine and blah, blah, blah. But what I see is that this is driving leptin resistance, which means that we're going to feel more hungry and not have a satiated appetite. And then we're just eating later. So my recommendation is to try eating breakfast within an hour of sunrise. I don't recommend just switching it by tomorrow. I recommend training. Like we're training our body. If I was training my body to have coffee and not eat till 10:30, that was me.
Yeah.
Because coffee is an appetite suppressant, right? So I was doing that. That's how I was training my body. So when I learned about this, I'm like, okay, I have to switch it. So I'd go outside, I'd see the sunrise. That sunrise light, that blue light should start to trigger an appetite. And so at the beginning, I just used protein shakes to try to get something in, to try to get my body used to it. And then about 3 weeks later, I go outside. I wasn't hungry. I look at the sky and boom, my appetite turns on. I'm like, it worked. And that happens every morning, almost every single morning without fail. I could be like, oh, I'm not hungry today. Breakfast is going to be hard. And then I go outside, I look at the sky, boom, I get hungry and then I eat. And then I recommend coffee after breakfast. Why? Because again, coffee is going to raise our stress hormones or any sort of caffeinated beverage. It's going to raise stress hormones. Some of these stress hormones like epinephrine actually drive insulin resistance. But when we eat before or even with the coffee or the caffeine, we lower the impact of those stress hormones. And there are studies to support this as well. So it's not just me, singling you out. And so now I go outside, I ground, I get hungry, I go inside, make breakfast, come back out here and eat it because I'm getting all that red light on me. So it's going to improve my blood sugar response to my meal. And then as a reward for doing all that, I get my coffee. And it's just like, oh my God, I didn't have my coffee yet. I get to have it. So it feels very exciting to me. That's what I recommend.
And that's a hard shift because again, when you get up in the morning and let's say it's winter and now it's not getting light out until 7. So on that note, what would you tell people to do? So let's say they have to be to work by 8. They want to get their coffee. They want to get ready, all of that. And it's not getting light out until 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 even.
Yeah. So within an hour of sunrise is ideal. And again, the farther away from the equator you are, the more challenging it will be in the peaks of summer and winter. It's just going to be the sun is rising super, super early or the sun is rising super late. And you're just going to do the best you can during this time and not stress out about it because the stress will make it worse.
Right.
So in the
That's
morning, don't wake up at 3:30 in the morning in the summer to go see the sunrise. Let's bring it to like 5:30 or 6. Try to maybe find a little more consistency, but get out there and see the sun. Same thing in winter. It's like, you know what? You don't see the sun before you leave. I'm going to talk about how to keep your house after sunset. And so we're going to do that sunset mode. We're going to do that again in the morning before the sun rises. And we're just going to do the best we can to mitigate the light that's coming in through our eyes. And then just eat when it makes sense, but try to keep in mind eating before coffee would be a really great, really important thing for, your thyroid people, it's a lot of my people, blood sugar and thyroid people
they just go together.
We're connected.
Yeah.
So my
absolutely.
people too, with hypoglycemia, crashing all over the place, being able to just nourish your body. So many of us, I see a lot of women, like I just want to talk about workouts. I see a lot of women waking up, going to the gym at like 5 or 4:30 in the morning under artificial lights, which are giving them a giant cortisol response, fasted with caffeine,
coffee.
with a pre-workout. And it's just like, that is maybe a dude can get away with that. And maybe a powerhouse of a woman can get away with that for some years.
Like in her 20s.
But what's going to happen? There will be ramifications. It reminds me of your story, Amy, of like the working out, like overworking out, like these competitions. That's what we're doing. That is burning the candle from both ends. That's the definition of that. And for a lot of women, I would rather have you sleep in till sunrise, get outside, put your feet on the earth, and then go for a walk. And you will probably have better results from doing that because you're not stressing your system so much. And then once your body has restored, then push it to do some workouts, maybe at a different time, or maybe eat first, like just trying to modify the best you can to fit your needs. But also just knowing so many times I just have to give my clients like the permission to do less because they feel like they're like, well, I have blood sugar problems. How can I not work out? I'm like, because sometimes it's just too much stress. And I want to like just hammer home that our circadian rhythms are driven, the two main hormones in our circadian rhythm are cortisol and melatonin. So if our cortisol is effed up, is all over the place, is jacked up, too high, flatlined, our whole body will not run right. And it's going to impact our metabolism. The next time in the day is UVA light. And this light is absolutely amazing. This is when the sun is about 10 to 30 degrees off the horizon. It's present in all sunlight, all over the globe, all year round. But in this window, it stimulates this peptide called POMC, which breaks into a bunch of different things like endorphins. It breaks into alpha, beta, and gamma MSH, which stimulates melanin, which acts like a natural sunscreen. So I'm red in the face if you're watching this as a video right now because it's hot out. But I have a strong what's called solar callus, which I've built a lot of melanin in my skin. That's just pigmentation in the skin, which acts as a natural sunscreen so I can be out in stronger UVB light later in the day, actually without needing sunscreen that would block vitamin D conversion. Melanin acts as a natural sunscreen, but it naturally controls your appetite. It has neuroprotective properties. It is capable of binding with heavy metals and certain chemicals, so it helps you detoxify. Yes, getting a tan helps your heavy metals. Unbelievable. It's antioxidant, can neutralize free radicals. It also produces this thing called lipotropins, which help improve fat burning. And that's not all. UVA also transforms certain amino acids into serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and thyroid hormones, Amy. Thyroid hormones. So it supports UVA light, supports the creation of T3 and T4 through the conversion of tyrosine. And it also generates molecular hydrogen, which is a really the most powerful antioxidant. I mean, like talk about like wanting to feel good and feel motivated and taking on your day. And interestingly enough, when are we supposed to take our thyroid medications? Some of them first thing in the morning, right? And when are we supposed to take a lot of mood medications also in the morning? Isn't it coincidental or funny or whatever that also we can also make all these brain chemicals and metabolic hormones in the morning as well.
Or not, because you're screwing up your own circadian rhythm and then you're not making them. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Pro tip, get outside during UVA, and maybe go for a walk or do some movement outside during this time. Utilize the glucose that you just had in your breakfast. UVB is the next window of time, and this is not available in all locations all year round. So you live in Iowa, it will not be around. Probably late September might be the last of the UVB that you get for the year, which means that we need to max out in a safe way on the UVB when it is available. So this is the most demonized and misunderstood light. And this is the only light that when it hits our skin, we convert cholesterol into vitamin D. Not morning light, not UVA light, only UVB produces vitamin D. And vitamin D, it doesn't only produce vitamin D, which is essential, obviously, for our blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, our immune system function, and so much more, but it also produces tons of other metabolites, different things like lumistrol, which works with the liver to produce bile acids, which helps us to be able to digest and metabolize healthy fats, which would stabilize our blood sugar. So all different things, not just vitamin D. And then when UVB hits your stomach, hits your skin, it changes the gut microbiome to be better able to digest simple sugars, which is convenient because those are the foods that are available when that light is high. So you go to Costa Rica, there's a lot of UVB, and there's also a lot of tropical fruit. So it makes sense, and you're better able to digest those things at that time. And then, just going to glaze over this really quickly, eating locally and seasonally is really important as much as possible. So that's one of my new sort of long-term goals. Don't go crazy about this and, do the best you can. You go into a modern supermarket, nothing's from Texas. I live in Austin. Nothing's from Texas. It's from California. It's from Washington. It's from Peru. It's from Mexico. Nothing, but I do the best I can to say what could grow in my environment right now. What could grow? And for some people, this is going to be a long-term goal because they're not ready to, let's say they live in Canada in the winter. Maybe their blood sugar is not ready to dive into a state of ketosis, which may be what they need to do up there because that's what is available in their area. Maybe they're not ready for this, but again, this could be a long-term goal. Same thing with summer. Maybe some people right now, their metabolisms can't handle the watermelon, the local seasonal fruit, whatever it is. And so maybe we're not, just because it's available, just because we quote should eat seasonally doesn't mean you have to eat all the things that are available. So in my mind, I see this as a long-term goal to eat more cyclically and seasonally as being, the most in sync with nature. And then UVB also reduces your risk of cancer. It boosts the immune system. It makes melanin. It creates free electrons. It reduces your appetite. It increases fat burning. And I think everyone looks great with a tan. When we're thinking about getting a tan, we really need to make sure we're getting morning light and UVA light because that's going to precondition the skin. It's going to build the natural sunscreen, and that will help protect our skin from the UVB light. So I'd also recommend you look up what your Fitzpatrick score is. So Amy, you're probably a 1. Yeah, you have very, very light skin, but it looks like you have a little bit of a tan. And so maybe when you were younger, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I never tan, I just burn. It's well, you have to do all the steps, go through all these different light and then microdose yourself 5 minutes in the sun. Don't come to Texas and be
laying out for an hour.
Lay out from 1 to 2. No, it's not going to go well. So we really want to avoid getting sunburn by wearing sunglasses. Please don't wear sunglasses, people, unless, it's a real situation if you're driving or as you're getting used to it. But sunglasses, I'm talking about the importance of this bright light, the colors of the light. And then we finally get outside and we cover our eyes. It's no.
Yep.
And also you increase your risk of a burn because your skin has a lot of protective mechanisms when it's getting this bright light to protect your skin, to have a histamine response to say, ooh, I'm getting a little pink, I better run inside or cover up. I'm not saying don't use sunscreen. I'm saying don't burn. I'm saying get the full spectrum of light and be smart about it and learn your skin and build up that solar callus gradually. And that's going to help you stay out longer to get more vitamin D. So now the sun's going down, I always say insulin clocks out. We want to aim to eat while the sun is up. This is challenging in the winter, but do your best here. We need to have a whole other podcast on leptin, but when we eat too late, it's gonna mess up our leptin. But I really want to talk about what to do after the sun sets. When the sun sets, that means there's no more blue light in our environment. What did our ancestors do? They didn't just go to sleep the second the sun set, they made a fire. Yeah. And they use that firelight to be able to see. And I like to mimic the light of the fire. So the light was low. It was orange, amber, red tones. It wasn't too bright. It was maybe started out a little bright. So as the sun sets, I like to think about like orange lights, Himalayan salt lamp, candles, beeswax candles, unscented, please. A little bit brighter table lamps. We want to turn off those overhead lights. And then as the night goes on, or in the summer, sometimes if the sun is setting pretty late, then we can just switch to just red. So we want to think about getting red lights in our environment, because these blue lights are giving us these artificial cortisol, blood sugar, and insulin spikes in the evening. And it's really, really damaging to every aspect of our health. I mean, blue light at night is linked in hundreds and thousands of studies with all sorts of things like cancer and metabolic disease and obesity and insomnia and mental health issues. And so blue light blocking glasses, you have to get the orange lenses or the red lenses. The clear ones don't work. They block out a violet light that doesn't even come from our screens. So I guess they work, but they're not effective. Yeah. And then during the day, you can use a yellow lens. Yeah. So anytime the sun is down, that's when we want to think no more blue light in my environment. So we want to have those fire tones, whether they're in lenses covering our eyes or the lights from our light bulbs. And then our screens, I have like a little, you go 1, 2, 3, and you click the side button, it turns red.
Molly set that up for me.
Yeah. So it's Iris software on the computer. So all different things to help mitigate some of this light. And then again, it's not only after sunset, but in the wintertime, it's going to also be before sunrise. So I will say with red light, you can't see colors. You can only see red and black and different shades. So pick out your clothes the night before. That's a pro tip.
Pro tip. Nice. I like it. This has laid the groundwork for people really changing their circadian rhythm, getting that natural sunlight, and all the tips that you just gave, which is going to come back, not only help their health, but it's also going to help their weight, because that's the biggest tie-in with all of your studies on metabolism and glucose and blood sugar regulation. That's essentially what pulled you into looking at light and circadian rhythm, right? And then you went down that rabbit hole from there.
Yeah, you have two people eating a meal. One's eating it inside in front of a TV that has blue light, and one is eating it outside grounded in red light, and they have vastly different blood sugar responses. I mean, even the time of day. I eat the same meal for breakfast. Amy, I had rice and beans with breakfast the other day. I can have oatmeal with breakfast. No spike. I have that same thing at night. Big spike. Yeah. It's like knowing these things. It's not only about what you eat. And that's what I want to leave people with. But it's not like, for me, it feels like with the food stuff, it feels like so hard sometimes to get it right. And it's so nitpicky. And with all these practices, we can actually relax a little more about food. And we're outside and we're connected with nature and we're less stressed. And it feels like this is, a lot of health is about like biohacking and forcing and cutting carbs and pushing yourself. This is more, I feel, a feminine, loving approach where it's like, let's step in our feminine. Let's receive the light of the sun. Let's feel appreciative. Let's sink. Let's relax. And instead of this go, 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 that's a very masculine energy and it depletes women. And I am one of them. And so I feel like, it's not to say never push yourself in a workout. No, there's a time for that. But if we don't also work on this piece, then we're going to be really out of balance and just be so stuck and just wonder what we're doing wrong because we're doing everything. And it's like we're doing too much. We need to be a little bit more. And I need to take my own advice. I still struggle with this. So if you struggle with it, you're not alone.
Well, I mean, and that's the reality of it, is all the things that we talk about. And I'm very open with my audience. All the things that I talk about on here, I try, I really do, but I am by no means perfect. So absolutely, I struggle with it, and I am not perfect. And I do drink my coffee sometimes first thing in the morning, but if I can pull it off 80% of the time and really feel that shift in my body, then and then you get that reward, and it's kind of like conditioning, like, oh wait, my glucose is better. I feel better. Oh, wait, I slept better. I actually got tired at 10 p.m. and woke up without an alarm. And when you see those shifts in your body, that conditions you to do it again. And then you do it the next day. And then you do it the next day. And then maybe you stumble on the 4th day, but you do it on the 5th day. Yeah. It's just all, like you said, it's retraining.
Yeah. And it makes everything that you do easier. And it starts to feel really good. People are just like, I feel like every day is vacation. Like, I've never had such positive feedback from things that I'm telling people to do, because a lot of times I'm taking away some of their favorite foods. And so they're like, it feels nice to be able to give someone something to add in that really gives so much value. And a lot of people, myself included, just having like really profound, like spiritual experiences, just being in nature and like remembering who we are. It's just, it goes so beyond just, numbers and blood sugar and things like that. It's so deep and it's so profound and so beautiful. So it's a beautiful practice. And like you said, you don't have to get it right every single day, is that you want to build up that daily habit. And that's going to give us that resiliency that we're looking for. If we're on vacation, if we, have a night out, we don't keel over, we just pick right back up where we left off.
I love it. I love it. You gave a ton of great nuggets on this, in this last hour. So let's do a part 2, dive into leptin and keep going with this, because there's so much more that we can talk about. So tell people where they can find you, because I'm sure you're going to get DMs about your grounding.
Yes. So I will send you my favorites guide if you want, so you can put that in the show notes for people to get like all the lights, all the glasses, all the different things. My podcast is called Light Up Your Metabolism. And I do have a course coming out called It Starts with Light. I can maybe send you the wait list to that if people want to jump on that wait list, because it's going to be how to put all these pieces into place in sort of like a 4-week step-by-step. So you don't have to like do it all, like get all these light bulbs. A lot of people get really overwhelmed by all of this and all the nuances about the seasons and working and kids. And there's a lot of questions that come up. So I answer all those in the course as well. And then I hang out a lot on Instagram. I make a lot of content there, Dani Hamilton Health. So feel free to swing by and say hello.
And we are going to put all that into the show notes. We have all of your links as well. You guys can just check the show notes and connect with her for sure.
Thanks,
Dani, thank you so much.
So good to see you.
You too.
All right. Bye.